From global TV fame to heartbreaking personal loss, Rick Harrison's journey is anything but what you see on screen. Known to millions as the sharp-tongued negotiator on Pawn Stars, Rick built an empire from a tiny Las Vegas shop. But behind the scenes, his life has been marked by devastating family tragedies, bitter legal battles, and unimaginable grief. What really happened to the man behind the counter? This is the untold, deeply human story of Rick Harrison, a tale of resilience, betrayal, and loss that few fans ever see. Rick Harrison, born March 22, 1965 in Lexington, North Carolina, was the third of 4 children to Richard Benjamin Harrison, a U.S. Navy veteran, and Joanne Rue Harrison. His early years were shaped by profound personal challenges and health issues. One of the most formative tragedies of his childhood was the death of his older sister Sherry, who was born with Down syndrome and passed away at the age of 6. The emotional weight of losing a sibling so early had a lasting impact on Rick and his family. At just 2 years old, Rick's family relocated to San Diego, California, due to his father's military transfer. By the time Rick turned 8, he began suffering from epileptic seizures, a serious neurological condition that significantly disrupted his daily life. These seizures forced him to spend long stretches confined to his bed, making regular schooling and childhood activities difficult, isolating him from his peers. Yet it was during these long, quiet hours that Rick found solace and stimulation in books. Rick's love for reading became one of the defining traits of his personality and would later become a key part of his success. He developed an early passion for history and science, with a particular interest in topics like the Royal Navy of the late 1700s and early 1800s. One of the most influential literary works he encountered was the Great Brain series by John D. Fitzgerald, which featured a young boy named Tom, a clever entrepreneurial con artist living in Utah. The character's ingenuity and schemes left a deep impression on Rick, who admired Tom's wit and resourcefulness. His academic life was similarly non-traditional. Rick attended Taft Middle School in San Diego, but dropped out during the 10th grade. His departure from school wasn't due to a lack of intelligence or ambition. He was already displaying entrepreneurial instincts, selling fake Gucci handbags, and making more money than many of his peers. This early blend of adversity, intelligence, and business-mindedness would lay the groundwork for Rick's future success in the pawn industry and reality television. Despite these early struggles, Rick developed a sharp mind, strong work ethic, and resilient attitude, qualities that would help him overcome even more serious personal and professional challenges later in life. By the time Rick Harrison was in his late teens, his life had already taken several sharp turns, both personally and professionally. After his family's real estate business failed, the Harrisons moved to Las Vegas, Nevada in April 1981, hoping for a fresh start. At just 17 years old, Rick faced a life-changing moment when his then-girlfriend Kim became pregnant. Though still a teenager himself, Rick made the difficult and mature decision to embrace fatherhood. Tragically, the young couple's first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage, a devastating emotional blow for both Rick and Kim. Despite the heartbreak, they remained together and chose to marry in 1982. Their commitment soon brought them joy. On April 27, 1983, their son, Corey Harrison, was born, a child who would later become a central figure on Pawn Stars and an important partner in Rick's business. In 1985, the couple had a second son, Adam Harrison. However, Rick and Kim's marriage didn't last long. After just a few years, they separated in 1985, leaving Rick as a single father of 2. Remarkably, he didn't stay single for long. Within 9 months, he met Tracy, and after dating for about 8 months, they married in 1986. Tracy stepped in as a maternal figure and helped Rick raise Corey and Adam, offering some stability in Rick's otherwise chaotic and rapidly evolving life. Around this time, Rick began working closely with his father, Richard the Old Man Harrison, who had opened a modest 300-square-foot second-hand store called Gold and Silver Coin Shop in Las Vegas. Though still a young man, Rick's natural knowledge of history and negotiation made him a valuable asset to the business. His deep appreciation for historical items, fostered during those years of reading as a child, helped bring authenticity and credibility to the shop's appraisals. While helping run the store by day, Rick worked a second job repossessing cars at night to help make ends meet. This dual hustle showed his determination to provide for his family and build a better life, not just for himself, but for his children as well. This period in Rick's life was marked by grit, hard work, and an unwavering commitment to supporting his loved ones, even as he balanced personal responsibilities and ambitious professional goals. Rick Harrison's path to becoming a household name didn't happen overnight. It was built over years of persistence, legal navigation, and entrepreneurial grit. After several moves and a growing interest in history-rich items, Rick and his father, Richard Harrison, decided to transform their small second-hand coin store into something more ambitious, a pawn shop. But doing so wasn't easy due to strict Las Vegas laws. At the time, Las Vegas had a 1955 ordinance that only allowed one pawn license per every 50,000 residents. For years, the Harrison family had to wait patiently for the city's population to reach a key threshold, 250,000 people, before they could even apply for a pawn license. When that milestone was finally met in 1988, Rick and his father quickly moved to secure their spot, despite facing several legal challenges in the process. By 1989, their efforts paid off. The Harrisons were granted a pawn license, and they officially opened the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, located at 713 Las Vegas Boulevard South, just a short distance from the Las Vegas Strip. The shop's location would later prove crucial, placing them near the flow of tourists, collectors, and gamblers who frequented the area. In its early days, the pawn shop primarily dealt with rare sports memorabilia and historical collectibles, categories Rick had a deep personal interest in. His background in history enabled him to provide rich context and valuations for items that other shops might have overlooked or undervalued. Over time, however, jewelry became the store's most profitable category, reflecting the broader market trends of pawn clientele. The business grew steadily, earning a strong reputation in Las Vegas and becoming a trusted name for both locals and visitors. By 2005, the shop had become financially robust, issuing millions in loans annually and collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest income. Customers ranged from collectors seeking rare items to down-on-their-luck gamblers pawning goods just to afford gas to get home. Rick's deep knowledge, negotiation skills, and relentless work ethic helped cement the shop's success. But the biggest transformation was still ahead. Unknown to them at the time, the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop was about to become the setting for one of the most successful reality TV shows in cable history. The turning point in Rick Harrison's career and the pawn shop's visibility came with the launch of the reality TV show Pawn Stars. In 2008, producers Brent Montgomery and Colby Gaines from Left Field Pictures visited Las Vegas in search of a compelling pawn shop that could serve as the centerpiece for a television series. They were intrigued by the idea of a family-run business filled with colorful characters and quirky historical items. After some searching, they found exactly what they were looking for: Gold and Silver Pawn, operated by Rick, his father Richard, and his son Corey. Interestingly, Rick had been trying to get a TV show about his shop for years. The store had already been featured in a 2001 PBS documentary, and Rick even made a brief appearance in a 2003 episode of Insomniac with Dave Attell. After some initial rejection, HBO passed on the show. The concept was reworked into a more family-friendly format. It was originally called Pawning History, but was later renamed Pawn Stars, a playful pun on porn stars, to better reflect its content and tone. The show premiered in July 2009 on the History Channel and became an instant hit. It struck a perfect balance between historical education, quirky customer interactions, and behind-the-scenes family dynamics. Viewers loved the mix of interesting artifacts, haggling, humor, and the obvious chemistry between Rick, Corey, their best friend Chumlee, Austin Russell, and Rick's father, the old man. As the show grew in popularity, it brought massive publicity to the pawn shop, which had to be closed to the general public during filming. Only a few vetted customers were allowed inside while taping occurred. At its peak, Pawn Stars was History Channel's highest-rated program and the second highest-rated reality TV show overall in early 2011, trailing only Jersey Shore. The fame also launched Rick and his co-stars into pop culture. They made guest appearances on shows like iCarly and The Middle, and Rick released a best-selling memoir titled License to Pawn in June 2011, which reached number 22 on the New York Times bestseller list. Despite his newfound fame and success, Rick Harrison's personal life was marred by heartbreaking losses and challenges. The most significant early blow came in June 2018, when his beloved father and business partner Richard "the Old Man" Harrison passed away at the age of 77 due to Parkinson's disease. Rick announced the death on Instagram, sharing a heartfelt tribute to his father, whose stern but lovable persona had become a staple of the show. The History Channel, fellow cast members, and fans worldwide mourned Richard's death. He had been seen as the wise patriarch of both the family and the business, known for his dry wit, no-nonsense attitude, and deep sense of integrity. His passing left Rick not only emotionally devastated but also solely responsible for managing both the shop and the family legacy. Soon after, more difficulties arose. The COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 severely impacted gold and silver pawns operations. Although one might assume pawnshops would thrive during economic downturns, Rick explained in interviews that business initially spiked but quickly dropped as lockdowns limited foot traffic and tourism, a huge source of their income. Rick had to temporarily close the shop to the public, keeping only the loan window open to help people in financial distress. That same year, financial pressure was compounded by Rick's third divorce from wife Deanna Burdett, whom he had married in 2013. The split, which occurred during the peak of the pandemic and amid the George Floyd protests, went largely unnoticed by the public until court documents surfaced. Rick described the breakup as mutual, citing growing differences in tastes and priorities. Despite the divorce, he expressed affection for his 3 stepdaughters from the marriage, calling them great daughters and continuing to include them in his life. These events, the death of his father, pandemic-related business losses, and another failed marriage, marked a profoundly difficult chapter in Rick's life. Yet, even during these times, he continued to push forward, supported by his son Corey and lifelong friend Chumlee, while remaining a key figure on television and in pop culture. Like many small businesses across the world, the gold and silver pawn shop was deeply affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, which struck the U.S. in early 2020. While pawn shops are traditionally seen as recession-resistant, offering fast cash to people in financial need, Rick Harrison revealed that the pandemic posed unique and severe challenges for the industry. In an interview with Fox News, Rick explained that while there was a brief spike in business at the very beginning of the pandemic, it quickly faded. Tourism, a lifeline for the Las Vegas-based shop, ground to a halt, and customers stopped visiting in person. To comply with public health regulations and ensure staff safety, the shop was forced to partially close its doors in March 2020, with only its night window for loans remaining open. This window operated 24/7, serving those in dire need of cash, a reminder of how Rick and his team continued to support the community during crisis. Rick and his staff made a conscious effort to be flexible and compassionate during this period. They lowered interest rates on pawned items and gave people more time to retrieve their belongings, understanding that the entire city and country was hurting. "I've been in this town a long time," Rick said in a local interview. "It's given a lot to me, and I always try to give back." Despite those efforts, the shop's financials plummeted. According to a report from the Daily Mail, the gold and silver pawn shop, which typically brought in over $1 million in annual revenue, made only $3,746 during a critical stretch of the pandemic in 2020. The dramatic drop highlighted how vulnerable even high-profile businesses could be under such extraordinary circumstances. While Rick remained hopeful in early interviews, predicting a 6-month recovery for the economy, the real path to normalcy took far longer, compounding financial and emotional stress on his business and personal life. Rick Harrison's personal relationships have been turbulent, with multiple marriages and divorces that mirrored the ups and downs of his career. After separating from his first wife, Kim, in the mid-1980s and divorcing his second wife, Tracy, in 2011, Rick seemed to find stability with his third wife, Deanna Burdett. The two married in a beachside ceremony in Laguna Beach, California in 2013. Through this marriage, Rick became a stepfather to Deanna's 3 daughters, Serena, Kiana, and Marissa, and he openly embraced them as part of his family. However, by 2020, cracks had formed in the relationship. According to court documents obtained by TMZ, Rick and Deanna had grown apart. He filed for divorce, citing that their tastes, mental dispositions, views, likes, and dislikes had become so divergent that they could no longer sustain a functional marriage. The divorce was filed quietly during the summer of 2020 and flew under the radar due to the intense national focus on the George Floyd protests and the pandemic. Despite the separation, Rick spoke warmly about his stepdaughters. In public interviews and on Instagram, he referred to them as his own children and maintained a relationship with them post-divorce. For example, in an August 2020 Instagram post, he shared a photo of a father-daughter off-roading trip, captioning it, "Father-Daughter Day," showing he still felt deeply connected to them. After the divorce, Rick did not shy away from love. In 2021, he married his 4th wife, Amanda Palmer, hoping once again to find personal happiness. Unfortunately, that relationship also faced difficulties not long after the wedding, though fewer details have emerged publicly about the status or longevity of that marriage. These repeated heartbreaks, set against the backdrop of a struggling business and the loss of his father, made it clear that while Rick may have achieved fame and fortune, his personal life remained complicated and often painful. In early 2022, Rick Harrison's personal life took another painful and very public turn when he became embroiled in a legal dispute with his own mother, Joanne Harrison. The lawsuit, filed in Nevada State Court, alleged that Rick had mismanaged and taken control of family assets, particularly his parents' shares in the gold and silver pawn shop, without proper consent or transparency. At the heart of the lawsuit was the claim that Rick had persuaded Joanne to sign over her 51% ownership of the pawn shop while she was hospitalized and recovering from a coma in the early 2000s. Joanne argued that at the time, she didn't fully understand the nature of the paperwork and the long-term consequences. This claim painted Rick in a troubling light, especially since fans had long seen him as a family-oriented figure who respected the legacy built with his father. The issue escalated when Joanne alleged that Rick had also stopped making regular $25,000 monthly payments to her, money she said she was entitled to from her late husband, Richard's 49% stake in the business. On top of that, she claimed she had not received full financial disclosures or a detailed account of over $500,000 in cash and silver assets that she believed Richard had left behind when he passed in 2018. Joanne's legal team even sought a temporary restraining order to prevent Rick from selling or moving any family assets and to protect her interests in the shop and other associated companies. The lawsuit demanded an accounting of all family businesses, unspecified financial damages, and the creation of a constructive trust to block Rick from continuing to control her property. Rick publicly denied the allegations, stating in interviews that the lawsuit was based on false claims and suggesting that others may have been manipulating his mother for their own benefit. He said he had made several unsuccessful attempts to contact her directly and emphasized that one of the companies she was suing was fully owned by Joanne herself, adding to the confusion and sadness of the situation. Regardless of who was legally right, the emotional damage and the spectacle of a public feud between mother and son was undeniable. The lawsuit revealed the complex and fragile nature of running a family business, especially when fame and fortune are involved. The most devastating chapter in Rick Harrison's life came in January 2024, when he suffered the heartbreaking loss of his younger son, Adam Harrison, at the age of 39. According to a report from the Clark County Office of the Medical Examiner, Adam died from an accidental overdose involving fentanyl and methamphetamine. The tragedy underscored the ongoing and deadly nature of the fentanyl crisis in the United States. Adam had previously worked at the gold and silver pawn shop, though he never appeared on Pawn Stars. Unlike his brother Corey, Adam preferred a more private life and later became a plumber, choosing to stay out of the spotlight. His death came as a shock to fans and family alike, especially since Rick had always maintained that Adam, though private, was deeply loved and remained part of the family. Concern for Adam's well-being began when neighbors and friends hadn't seen him since January 17, 2024. His landlord discovered him unresponsive in his home on January 19, prompting a call to authorities. Days later, Rick confirmed the heartbreaking news by posting a photo of himself with Adam on Instagram, with the caption, "You'll always be in my heart. I love you, Adam." He also added a broken heart emoji, symbolizing the profound pain he was feeling. The family issued a formal statement through spokesperson Laura Herlovich, who confirmed the cause of death as a fentanyl overdose. Rick later made a public comment urging more serious national attention to the fentanyl epidemic, reflecting both his grief and a desire to turn personal tragedy into public advocacy. Adam's older brother, Corey Harrison, also shared his grief, posting a childhood photo of the two of them on Instagram with the message, "I'll always love you, Bubba." The outpouring of condolences included messages from fans and public figures, including Donald Trump Jr., who simply commented, "I'm so sorry, man." Adam's death marked a profound emotional low for Rick, a man already battered by loss, divorce, and legal troubles. Yet in the midst of the pain, he expressed continued love for his family, including Adam's memory, and showed resilience in the face of unimaginable grief. Despite the enormous personal and professional challenges Rick Harrison has faced, from the death of his father and son to multiple divorces, a lawsuit from his mother, and the economic devastation of COVID-19, he continues to move forward with strength, purpose, and a public persona defined by resilience and optimism. In recent years, Rick has shifted away from working full-time at the gold and silver pawn shop, choosing instead to focus on television projects and semi-retirement. He now stars in Pawn Stars Do America, a spin-off series in which Rick, Corey, and Chumley travel across the country to meet collectors, view historical items, and engage in on-the-road negotiations. The show preserves the spirit of the original Pawn Stars while expanding its scope beyond Las Vegas. Rick has also shown a growing interest in politics and civic involvement. In 2020, he publicly endorsed Donald Trump for president, and also backed Daniel Rodimer, a Republican candidate for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District. He even revealed that he had considered a run for governor of Nevada in 2022 and was weighing a possible bid for the U.S. Senate in 2024, noting that people in the Republican Party had encouraged him to run. While he hasn't officially declared a candidacy, Rick has stated that he is keeping his options open. Beyond politics and business, Rick continues to receive recognition for his cultural contributions. In June 2023, he was honored with the title of Kentucky Colonel, the highest civilian award issued by the governor of Kentucky. During a special ceremony at Locust Grove, a historic site partially featured in Pawn Stars Do America. On a personal level, Rick is now focused on enjoying time with his grandchildren, reconnecting with family, and maintaining a positive outlook despite the deep pain he's endured. His Instagram posts often show off-road adventures, family moments, and thoughtful reflections, including tributes to loved ones he's lost. Though he continues to navigate legal issues and the long shadow of tragedy, Rick maintains a bright smile in public and remains a central figure in the Pawn Star's legacy. He has turned decades of hardship into a life that, while imperfect, continues to resonate with viewers who admire his perseverance and honesty.